Because the problem is, the more time passes, it just gets and you're like, 2 months have passed, 3 months have passed. I don't know. I have no clue. Like, and then you pick up the phone to talk, and then there's just that strangeness of this person that was your person is not what your person, because you don't know where to start. So much has happened in your life. You're like, if I even want to bring you up to speed, where do I begin? Which one do I start with?
Hi there. Welcome to Gist with Dotun the Girl. On this podcast, I share interesting life lessons that I am learning from personal experiences in a very relatable way. In this season, I will be sharing my experience as a long-distance lover girl, and I will also have perspectives from other people in long-distance relationships. Expect new episodes once a month, and enjoy this one you're about to listen to. Hi there. Welcome to Gist with Dotun the Girl. On this podcast, I share interesting life lessons that I am learning from personal experiences in a very relatable way. In this season, I will be sharing my experience as a long-distance lover girl, and I will also have perspectives from other people in long-distance relationships. Expect new episodes once a month, and enjoy this one you're about to listen to.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast. Today is a very special day. This episode is very, very dear to me. First of all, because of the people, and also because of what we'll be speaking about. My stars are here with me to give the lowdown of long distance family relationships. Okay, so let me give them an opportunity to introduce themselves before I go on. So maybe you can say why you came, when you came, how long you've been here, all of that. Interesting.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Doctor, for having me. My name is Toyin and I'm Doctor's cousin, sister, yes. So I've been in the UK for a year and 7 months now. I came in to study for my master's, and I'm currently working in the UK.
Happy 1 year, 7 months.
I'm Anu. I'm Dotun's cousin. Another one of, I don't know, her dad's siblings. And I came into the UK in 2016. So I've been here for over 5 years. It's been over 7 years.
So welcome, mathematics. As you know.
Yeah, about 8 years. Yeah, you can see, like, I've been here for quite a while. So I came here for uni, and I've just been here ever since.
Yeah, you'll be here. Good. But me, I'm a newbie. I've never spent a year here, but my idols see. So yeah, what would you guys say you miss the most about being back home? For me, people always ask me, are you homesick? Do you miss home? I don't know. What is it for you guys? What do you miss the most about home?
Every time I hear this question, the person I say is food. See, always food tops the list. Always food. The ease of accessibility to food out there, being able to access the food you want, the quality of food back home. I miss food so much. That's like the top. That's the top of my list. Definitely the food.
Yeah, I definitely second that. Every time my mom comes here, I always give her like a list of things she has to make before she goes back. Because, I have to have it, I always have a long list. Like, I don't know when next, or, maybe the African stores is not as good. Definitely the food and just the little nuances and things that you don't get here. The chaos you get in Lagos, people in the traffic fighting themselves. Yeah, just see people. No, definitely. Maybe as long as I've been here, and also because I had a long period where I wasn't going back home. The last time I visited, I was like, wow, I really have missed home. Even the heat, I miss the heat. Although I started to regret that after a while. Yeah, because the heat was just a bit much. Yeah.
As you mentioned, food and your mom cooking for you. I just remembered the first time I had egusi after I got here. It was Anu's mom that made it, and it was in your sister's house. Hey, I was crying tears of joy. I think I had spent 2 weeks without swallow, without soup. Hey,
Just 2 weeks.
just 2 weeks. But I didn't even know how much I had missed it. Like, I knew I wanted, like, I'm missing swallow. And this Anu here, I don't be giving me pasta. Hey God, pasta I've missed meal sauce.
It's 8 years here.
Pasta I've missed it. But I could not be an ingrate. I ate everything with gratitude. But when I ate that cuisine,
Wow.
I said God is good. I was glad. And I was just praying for my auntie. I was praying for my auntie coming get of my heart. Because he was so satisfied. So yes, I totally get the whole food thing is an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say your first few days of being alone in the UK were like? I know you didn't go to boarding school. So coming to school was your first time away from home. You're not just in drive away from home, you were miles away from home. So what was that what were those first few days like, that first month thereabouts?
I would say for me, to be honest, like I was really, really excited. I don't know, people who feel maybe they were a bit homesick. Like I never really felt that way because it was my first time being it. So I was really excited to be, away, to start new life here in the UK. The weather, everything is different. I was quite excited. And because I also had the opportunity we had WhatsApp and all that. So I was always calling my parents. I didn't really feel like I was missing out of a lot. Maybe that's just because my mom says this as well. I'm very, very independent person. So like it just maybe allowed me to just, really, really shine through that independence, allowed the independence to like shine through. So because I didn't really feel, people say, oh, they feel a bit sad, they were crying. I never had that moment. Sorry. I love my family and all, but for me, it wasn't. Yeah. But anyway, as we talk more, you get to understand how that has changed for me now.
Yeah. So you also didn't go to boarding school. Like I think of three of us, it was just me that went. Okay, then your sister went to boarding school at some point. But what was it like being away from home?
Yeah. So I think for me, even though I didn't go to boarding school, I think NYC was like the first time I had the opportunity to go away from home for a while. So I did 1 year in northern part of Nigeria, Abuja, a whole year. So that was my first experience from being away from home, even though it was still Nigeria and I used to go back home once in a while. This was the first time I actually went away without having any opportunity to go back home. And my case was very different. So I came to the UK with my sister and my mom. So we spent a whole month together in the UK. I don't know, and that unconsciously, I didn't know that my mind was starting to frame a new reality with them being around. So when they left me, I can never forget that day. I literally got in because they followed me to school and everything, helped me set up. And then I left them in the apartment where they were staying to go and start this new life of being in school. And as I go into the Uber, the guy said, oh, how are you? What are you here for? And I just burst out in tears. Because the reality hits me that, I'm actually here for school. Like, I didn't move here with my family. My family is going back. Like, this is a new life. This is a new reality. And I think I needed just that one moment to cry it out, to know that this life that I was living this past month is not my reality. I'm going back to reality now. So after that night, I just walked through that emotion and all of that. But by the next day, the school activities hit me back to back. Now, entire week was induction. I was meeting so many new people. So I go over it really quick. But that day, that night particularly, just stepping away from them, seeing them, waving bye to them, just hit me really hard. But the next few days, weeks after that, adjusting to the new environment. And like you said, I'm also very independent. So it was quick for me to adjust and get used to this new reality. And I'm also very close to my family. So constantly checking in, that helped. But we'll talk more about that, Sha. Yeah.
Yeah. And that initial departure part, or that moment when it hits you, is something. Because my last guest, Tolu, also talked about that, and she said that all her plane ride from Nigeria to UK, that she was in tears. Because she just realized that my people are not here. The only one that's facing this new phase of my life. So it's interesting that people had wildly different experiences. I'm not just ready to leave the house. You're ready to leave home and be an independent woman. Anyway, that's good. Everybody already knows that I bawled my eyes out. There's no news there. I cried like there was no tomorrow. But yeah, so you said like school hit you, all of that. You were in the swing of things immediately. And I'm sure it was same for you being like an undergrad for the first time. So many different realities. Did you have moments where it was like, I wish I was home? Like where they had days where you were just like, please take me back. Why am I here?
Oh yeah, most definitely. There was so many of those moments. I think first started out with getting into the educational system here. Things are done so differently here. The example that comes to my head right now is chasing bus. That was the first thing that I remembered. Things like that, little things, the educational system here, their way of teaching, no understanding some accents. Well, I mean, you would think you're familiar, especially with how exposed we are to like the Western culture, whether through movies, songs, and all of that. You would think you are quite exposed. So you get into a system, the educational system, where it's like you have to grasp what they're saying. So you're meeting people with different accents, people who speak differently. You are learning something. So you have to be very deliberate about understanding what they are saying. So adjusting to that is like, why can't I just be at home doing this? And then the system generally, the landscape here is so different. Transportation, finances, so many different things. Like I watched so many YouTube videos before coming here in preparation to say, okay, nobody will catch me off fresh. It's a lie. Teachers boss. You will try to pay for something, you don't know where to tap. You try to scan something, you don't feel like you don't know what you're doing. All of those situations, like, if I was at home, I would be looking embarrassed like this, or nobody would be shaming me like this. Things like that, or not having like community around, not being able to speak to people and have shared experiences. Those kind of things remind you of home. They hit hard when people are talking, they're talking about their childhood and you just can't relate to what they're saying. Those kind of days is kind of hard. Days when you can easily walk out of your house, go see a friend, drive down, drive in.
Driving.
I used to go out of driving so much, those things basically, like they remind you of home a lot. Like Anu was saying earlier, as you mentioned, as I'm thinking of it now, actually coming out, seeing me crowd, drivers arguing, all of those vibes, yeah, those things, they make you miss home a bit. Yeah, everything is just quiet, everybody minds happiness there. You kind of miss all of that a bit.
I would say probably for me, just like Toyin said, just getting the swing of things. I remember on the bus issue, I remember where my accommodation used to stop, because there's a bus stop that was close to my accommodation, where the bus used to stop. I think for the longest period of time, it seems like there were always people who are also stopping at my bus stop, but they would press, there's the bell you have to press to get off. And then, because obviously other people were always pressing it, I never realized I was going to have to press the button. And then one day came and I was like, oh my goodness, the bus has passed my bus stop and the bus is not stopping. And I had a whole lot of things I was carrying, that time before I got my trusty trolley that you see over there. I had to obviously carry, these big Tesco bags, and I had to just stop, like, I need to get off. Finally, I realized that, that is what this bell is for, So I finally, there's no driver stop, there's no OR, or I thought that, they just magically stopped at every stop. I didn't occur to me until that fateful day, and then I, finally made my way down from the bus. It was already a relatively long walk up my bus stop. So you can imagine that was not even a long place. I remember, coming back. I think it was also raining that day.
God knows.
So it was terrible. It was really, really bad. Just having that, and just like, oh my God, like I wish I had known how to do that, understood how this thing works. Another thing for me was just something, maybe because with things that we take for granted, you have a lot of help at home. To be honest, like this is slightly embarrassing, but I didn't know how to use a can opener until I moved here. Yeah, actually, YouTube was my best friend coming in here. Like all these fitted sheets, or how to, lay the bed, on all that in your uni accommodation. I had to go on YouTube, how to dress the duvet cover. YouTube was teaching me everything, how to use can opener, how to do this. I had to always go on YouTube. I'm like, I don't know how to do all those things. I had to learn. Obviously, you can't throw all your clothes into the washing machine. You have to maybe wash by color. I had to now look at the care label. What can go into the washing machine? What can't? Just little things like that. And, all those things had to add up. And I just like, before, I used to hand wash my clothes. It wasn't like I was a lazy person, but at least everything is safe. Almost everything is safe when it's hand washed. And maybe you give the heavier things to like the washman or whoever is helping you to wash. Yeah, so there's just things like that. I'm just like, wow, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I think also making friends, it's a bit difficult because I'll just say one thing, like if you're planning to come here, like freshers week, everybody is in nicest. By week 2, people start to show their true colors. People that you think that maybe might be friendly, maybe they have people that they want to be more friendly. Yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, you have to now also start to respect that you guys are okay because everybody's being friendly. It's because it's the first week, so you need to watch and see. Well, be careful. Everybody has their own agenda, has their own thing. The friendship group starts to form from like week 2 thereabouts. Freshers week, generally everybody is friendly. After week 1, then you start to see who really wants to be your friend and who is
it didn't last 1 week for me. By our second day of induction, I was in the 3rd day of induction, the cliques had formed and I was not in any. Jesus.
Exactly, yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
That was talk for another day.
It's a tough one. It's like talk for another day. Like that whole dynamic, and you're just maybe some people they were coming from the same colleges and all. Honestly, I schooled in I was in Nigeria. I did my A-level equivalent in Nigeria. I think maybe from my A-level school, there was only one other person that was coming from this school, and he was in another course. Still my good friend, in another course. So I didn't really know. But to be fair though, like one of my mom's friends' children, like 2 of them actually, I think they were in business school as well. But I've not really like made friends with them like that. So it wasn't that help. I mean, I thought I did, but it's clear that after a while, you kind of get that, okay, maybe like, yeah, then our parents know each other doesn't mean that they may want to be friendly with you. So, and that's completely fine. But it's just also getting to that point where you come to that realization. Yeah, so I was like, oh, we're all pretty young. We're like 18, 17, we're all pretty young. So you don't know all these things. You're used to in Nigeria having all your classmates, all your friend groups, so many people. And then here you're like, it's the first time I'm actually being out of home in a place I don't know. And you may want to try to create a new identity for yourself. And that may not always pan out, the way you expect. So you just have to just, give yourself grace.
Yeah. Did you ever have any breakdown moments where you were just, I'm not drinking?
I did. It was around this time last year, actually. So the thing with the UK is you get here and there's so many things people don't tell you about till you get here that you have to find out yourself. I mean, before coming, I've heard people talk about, you need to work part-time, you need to fend for yourself and all of that. And of course, you have to find ways to support yourself so you're not as much of a burden to people back home. And just that reality of doing all of that with school and still doing that with being in a new environment, adjusting to how things are done here was a lot for me, especially with school. And as one of the peak seasons of school, I had so many things to deliver. There were so many reports to write. We had exams coming up. Work was also a lot for me, physically, mentally. There was so much going on in that season. And honestly, I think that was when I broke down the most. And of course, there was also a lot around like applying for jobs, what's happening post-school, a lot of that had led up to, I didn't know that there was so much pent-up stress in me. And, from a thing, another thing is it came a lot from being independent, like not sharing with people what's going on with you, just wanting to hold everything in, like just be strong for everybody so you're not being a burden to other people. It just all came crashing down at once, unfortunately for me. All came crashing down the first week of April, like it all just came down like, this is too much, I can't do this. And I remember last year, April was really a very heavy month for me. Like I had to just go through motions. And because unlike Nigeria, the systems here are very, very, they're so properly structured that you can't just walk away from something you're no longer interested in. And I'm talking about the job I was doing at the time. It's easy, well, let me not say it's easy, but in Nigeria, things are a bit unstructured where you can just say, I'm not even doing this job again, I'll walk away. But I was forced to do a job where I wasn't happy, I was stressed till the end of the month, just because I had signed this contract and this contract says this. So you're forced to do things, you're not used to doing things in that way, but this system makes you that person. And because it's not our reality, you take on things that you're not even aware what the consequences of the decisions you're making are. So it was literally a month of torment for me because I had to go through something that I had made a decision on without knowing clearly what the nuances were. It was really a big month, like all of that. But yeah, we're here. So we survived it. But that was honestly a big month for me.
Did you have any support, or was there any points where you said, okay, let me not go through this alone. Let me have people support me?
Yeah. So to be fair, on this, I think it's just something that, generally people are only able to help to the extent that you let them in. So or if you had asked me at that point, I would have said, oh yeah, people definitely know what I'm going through. But I think I was only sharing enough for people to say, oh, she's going through this. But I never showed that I needed help, or I never showed that I had this I was going through. And then rightfully so, I felt like there was nothing anybody could do to help me. Like, what can you do to help me this season? People are not here. There were times where I felt like I just needed a hug. I just needed to hug somebody. See, this country, I went almost 6 months and I didn't hug anybody. Sometimes I'll go into church and it was just one of my friends in church that was like, hi, how are you? You know that side church hug? Like, I don't know you so well. Sometimes I just needed a hug. Like, I just wanted to hug somebody. But when will I start traveling down to a different city to come and hug my family this year? Cool, like, sometimes you just need somebody to hold you and say, you'll be fine. But I didn't have that. And it was like, I had family that was speaking to, they knew what I was going through, but they could only say, Pele, you'll be all right. So I just keep at it. And at the same time, they also don't want it to look like they're being insensitive with what you're going through. I was only letting people know enough to say those kind of things like, Pele, well done. Oh, I'll just say I'm stressed, I'm tired. They just encourage you, keep it going. But sometimes what you actually need, they can't give. They can't give you. They can't give you in that moment. They can't give you the way you want it. And I think what really was a breaking point, I think I'm going off point, but on my best day, I remember one of my friends, she had just moved January of last year, and she made the decision to come down to the city where I was, and she spent the entire day with me. It was when she was leaving that evening, I was like, please don't go. I didn't know how much an impact having somebody that was my own person was for me, because that week was honestly one of the most difficult weeks, and have been there, like, we didn't even do much. We just went out because I told her I didn't want to do anything for my birthday because I just wasn't in a space to celebrate it. But her being there, I was like, please just stay over. Like, I didn't know how much I had missed having somebody to talk to, somebody to just laugh with. I laughed so much that day. I remember that day was really a good day, one of my best days. So yeah, I think sometimes they don't want to be able to put people in a place where they don't know what to do with this information, how much you've let them in. I think that was where it was.
Yeah. So that thing about a hug, at some point I was like, I've done a month here. Nobody has.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And you don't even know how much. Okay, I think the first time I realized that I do not like to survive, that was when I went to NYSC camp. NYSC is Nigeria's. I mean, like prison.
Oh gosh.
I had done 3 weeks and I was like, no, this is not ideal. I didn't bond with anybody enough to have a proper hug. So that was stressful. And then when I came here again, I was like, I've been here before and I don't like it. But I don't know, God helped me that my first Sunday, I was attending 2 churches at home, but my first Sunday, one person just gathered me. I don't know her from Adam. Wow. I've not even seen her after that Sunday, but she just gave me the biggest hug. I was like, this woman knows God.
Wow.
Like, this woman knows God. Yeah, so now I totally guess. I think that one carried me for a while before I found.
Honestly, literally, like, when you see people, you get all the hugs you can. And honestly, I didn't think that of myself as that kind of person. You won't know that you're that kind of person. So you actually see people, you see them, you hug them, you're like, I've missed actually being.
Yeah, things you take for granted.
Yeah, things you take for granted. Because you don't know, you can want to hug some people outside, they can have all this. Like, it's not as easy here.
Yeah.
So, like, when you see people, you genuinely, like, embrace them, get all the contacts you can.
I get you. I totally get you. Did you have any breakdown points? And independent woman, like, we don't break.
Oh, no. There were definitely, many breakdown points, like at different levels. No, at different, if we're talking about from uni, I'm sure like every single year, even when I was doing a placement, so basically that's like, I think Nigeria's UK equivalent of an IT attachment year. And then, for that year, I had multiple breakdowns. I'm the kind of person that, I say I'm strong, independent, but like I am waterworks. Like when everything gets too much, like I just burst into tears. I think the most dramatic one that I did was in final year. I sat on the floor and I cried. So you get going through the emotions, like you're really going through it. I had at different points. In fact, there was a point I can still remember I was in my room in first year and I remember like, I had stored my box under the bed and I was at the point I was so stressed. At that point, that was when the pound skyrocketed to like 600 and all that. So there was that. Also, that's you're squeezing things for your parents. Your parents, they want to help, but they can't really help. They are trying their best. They can help, but they are limited. They're limited, just trying to find your own way in doing all that. And at that point, like I remember thinking to myself that my box is under here. That I would say we just lift up my mattress, take out the box, pack my things, and it's not the next flight home. Because I was at that point, I was like, this is just too much. This is not what I expected coming here. This was supposed to be a new life for me. It was supposed to be a new start. You're coming here. It's meant to be a new start. I'm not supposed to be here having a mental breakdown. And I remember when I was in Nigeria, it was like, oh, what is mental health thing? Like, mental health? No, if you've not thought about it wherever you are, like if you come here, there will probably be a couple of things that will happen to you that will make you start to realize that that they are real. It actually does exist. Like I used to think that these people they just have this first world country.
Yeah, because you're dealing with Nigerian problems,
exactly.
You have time for that.
But like they're just little things here and there, and so even up till now, like sometimes I say if it's maybe because of work, maybe I'm stressed and tired. But now maybe not really breakdowns. I will just have a serious rant session. So I have that. I do that with my parents, some of my friends. I will basically sit down on the phone. One of my friends, in fact, she knows me. Like I can be going on and on and on and she's just there, like she's there. Maybe we're both walking and she's just there like a listening ear. And we do that for each other from time to time. Just there listening, someone just to agree with you. Like that's not going to solve the problem, but just knowing that there's somebody in your corner be able to support you. And I think that you're always going to need that as you go on in life. You always need those people who you can just sit down and just have a dump on them. And sometimes you are going to be the one that's going to need to step in and be there for them as well. And like I said, now to the second question about getting that support. And I think for me, the biggest support was actually the church community. I mentioned earlier that friendship groups and all that I had planned didn't really pan out the way I've wanted it to go. So definitely a lot of the solace came from church, and which is exactly what church is meant to be. My church was like a very, very small church. It's grown a lot now, but it was a relatively small church. Just a couple of us, everybody literally knew everybody. And it was so small that if you were missing, generally would be somebody, even the pastor himself would call and be like, oh, we've not seen you for a couple of weeks. Is everything okay? Do you need anything? We also had things like welfare for like students. So the students were always well taken care of. They will put stuff at the back of the church. Like if people will buy stuff, leave them. There's even some of the people in church that they would actually cook food and bring for like students. Just really having that support and knowing that obviously it's also like the majority of them are Nigerians as well. So like you could have those, those nuances and those things that you are missing from home. You could have them in church. Just having that church community, it helped me a lot. So I think for other people, it can be different places, different things. So I mean, if you are thinking church, it's exactly what church should be. It should be a place of community, like they say in the Bible that, they move in one accord and everything. Mm-hmm. That's exactly how it should be. And it definitely was that way all through uni. Even up till now, like at a couple of times a year, I still head down back to Exeter and I always greet them. I'm almost always there, so definitely. So I would say that that's one of the things that really supported me. And obviously talking to parents as well. I said, like my mom, I was always on the phone with her. We always have family conversations. Now that thankfully WhatsApp has like can add multiple people in the call. At the time that I was in uni, we didn't have that. It was just probably just talking to my mom. Probably we'll both have like a stressed out session with all that. And then we'll go, they will pray with me, and just having those people, that does help.
Yeah. So next thing I was going to talk about was what did distance do to your family relationships? Did it help? Did it strain? What was that like?
So with family relationships and friendships, okay. Initially, it was a bit of a struggle trying to find the balance, especially because you're adjusting to a new system, you're adjusting to a new routine, trying to get your footing and adjust to all of what moving here means. So initially it was a bit of a struggle, but at some point I started to get my rhythm with family. So with family, I think I sort of got my rhythm faster, quicker, because of course, African mothers, Nigerian mothers, she will call you every day. How is this child accent what doing? So my mom was calling every day, still does, by the way. Yeah. So it was easy to keep up that one with family here and there. With friendships, it was quite different because your friends don't have as much of a responsibility to make sure you are doing okay. And I'm saying that with a lot of caution. It's not like they don't have that responsibility, but they also have their own things they're going through, and you are not their child or anything where it's like, oh, people ask how this person is doing and they must account for it. So with friendships, it was a bit more different. Also because in that season, a lot of the friends I had were also going through different changes, different movements. So we were all trying to find what works for us. How do we keep up this relationship and make sure we're not losing touch? So it took a lot of efforts. I'm not going to lie. I mean, in the first couple of months, a lot of my relationships were strained, and not out of anything that we did per se. It was just from a place of infrequent communication. Like we weren't as much in each other's lives. And I know a lot of people say when they move, one thing they make sure they do is they get like Snapchat to make sure they are knowing what's going on in people's lives. But then it wasn't that way for me. I'm not as much that social media.
No, I'm on Snapchat. It's not useful.
So
You know that it's not useful, but it can be so fickle. It can be
very soft.
Yeah, very soft.
Yeah, and that was my fear about it as well, which is why I don't use it as much. But so you find out that maybe you've not spoken to somebody in a month or two, and this is somebody that you used to speak to often, like you knew all of what was going on in their world, and it's like, how did I get to this place? And there's also the challenge of you are in a new place, you are meeting new people. So you're also trying to build that bond with the new people you met. So it's finding that balance of meeting new people, strengthening the bond with them, but also retaining the bond you have with people back home. And honestly, it takes a lot of work. Like I always tell you, like this intentionality, honestly, it took me having to say that, okay, I would sacrifice some of my nights. I would sacrifice some of my weekends when I should be resting, relaxing, just so I don't lose touch with these people. Because if there's anything that I love from our parents' generation is how strongly they build bonds that
have lasted 20 years.
A lot of my moving here, some of the family members I have here, or like friends, family friends, I would say that I have here that I can easily walk up to and say, oh, I need this, or can I help with this? I have friends that my mom made in university, or like they made when they were much younger. So it's like, for me, these are the people that I should hold dear to my heart, especially because I can vouch for their values, I can vouch for their background, I can vouch for the journey we've walked through together. So they are the people that I would expect my children to also look up to and say, these are my mom's friends, So it took me having to say, okay, I might need to sacrifice some things to make sure I don't lose this person. And it comes from a mindset thing of just understanding that, honestly, God sets the solitary in family, like he sets us in community for a reason. And it's not that he just gives us people to use and dispose of. If God sends somebody to you for a particular reason, then maximize the opportunities that he has given you to be there for that person. And also not just thinking about it as, oh, I need this person in my life for this, but also understanding that it's a mutual connection. This person might also need you in that season for a certain thing. So I had to go from that point of, I'm not contacting this person as much. I'm constantly saying, oh, I should reach out. But being more intentional about it, actually setting reminders. I was having to put in calendar invites to speak to my friends. I see this with a lot that you're meeting with people in long distance friendships. You have to be booking time. We had to do that. It comes to the point where you have to do that just to be able to speak to people. And it's not everybody that I speak to as often, but you would see that even that bi-weekly call that you have with somebody, you catch up, you are aware of what's going on with them, you know what their prayer needs are as well. Like if you're not even speaking constantly, what's going on in this person's life spiritually, how are they doing? How can I be there for them? Just showing concern and value for them as people, because seasons change. It might not be school that you are doing, it might be a new job, it can be a new family, but the structures you put in place when seasons change is what will keep you going constantly. So it's that intentionality, honestly, that helped me with friendships. With family, like I mentioned, it was slightly easier because they don't got a choice. But with friendships, like it took much more work than I expected.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've not had the friendship going on. Because the problem is, the more time passes, it just gets, and you're like, 2 months have passed, 3 months have passed. I don't know. I have no clue. Like, and then you pick up the phone to talk, and then there's just that strangeness of this person that was your person is no more your person, because you don't know where to start. So much has happened in your life. You're like, if I even want to bring you up to speed, where do I begin? Which one do I start with? So yeah, but I guess it takes intentionality and wisdom, and maybe a lot of just saying a willingness to start afresh and let everything that has gone under the bridge go under the bridge and say, let's start again.
Also having that conversation with the other person as well, because sometimes a lot of what we think is from our end. You don't even know what the other person is thinking. You don't know what they feel about the current situation going on. Like I would say, some of my friendships got strained, and it just got to a point of, let me just leave it. At least they are not checking in. Let me just let it go. But sometimes you don't even know what they are dealing with as well. Like sometimes you get so into your own space, into what you are going through, that you forget that there's actually another person on the other end. And sometimes distance does that as well, because you are not seeing them. You can't put into perspective what exactly their reality is. Of course, like we know things are different back home. There's so much going on. But because you left home a certain way, you just have that image of what you left at home with them, not thinking that they're constantly changing. There's a lot happening with them as well. So honestly, communication is, I had to have some really hard conversations that I didn't think was in me. I had to have some hard conversations where I was like, look, this is where we are at. If this friendship, if we're going to make it work, you need to be able to come up to me and say, this is what's going on, or you don't like that this is happening. And if we're going to say that we want to be friends for long, then we need to be in each other's lives more than visually. I mean, there's some friends I call up once in 3 months and we catch up and we are good, because that's the level of friendship we have. But if you're in my core, if you're in my inner circle, then I would expect more. I expect you to be updated with everything that is going on in life, and vice versa as well. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to be able to pray with you, hold you up in prayers and all of that. So sometimes you need to have those conversations where it's like, we can't keep avoiding each other. What's going on? People are asking what's happening with this person, and I don't know. We're supposed to be close friends, So I also think is a thing of accountability. I'm going a lot on this, but on another side, I feel like it was God also probing me and saying that He placed you, like I said, He placed you in this relationship where it is. What are you doing with this? Thinking of it as not just a friendship, or not just as something to steward. Exactly. Like it is something that you should be acting in service over. So it's like, God has given you this relationship. What are you doing with it? Was this the purpose for which He gave you this relationship? And doing more with it. And of course, there are friendships that go out of their season where it's like, this is the time to wrap things up. And you wrap it up in a way that is godly and pleasing to God. But yeah, the ones that do need to stay on where it hasn't reached, maxed out the season, then it's going back and saying, how do I need to do this? God, grab me the wisdom to go about it. I think that's what helped me have some of those conversations as well.
Lots of wisdom and practical advice, because I don't have anything to add.
I think just to second the point that Toyin mentioned about friendship having seasons, I think if I look at the secondary school friendships and all, to be honest, I would say that in a lot of my friendship like groups and things, there are definitely ways I could have handled things better. And there are some friendships that I definitely probably would have had the opportunity to keep, but because I wasn't sensitive to them, and because when you're in secondary school, like you can mix different friend groups, like just. I was that person that was almost like every couple of years, I was in a new friendship. Not like had feelings or anything, but it can be something as small as, you're no longer in the same class, so you don't have the same thing. Or maybe they start getting involved in certain things and, they're not really into that. That may cause, the friendship to sort of like, that's not really the kind of value that I stand for. I mean, like, it's good, nice for you, but I'm not going to be part of that. I was able to have like a friendship. I did a 1-year program before I came to the UK. So after secondary school, I did a 1-year program. And during that time, like it's a very short period of time, just 1 year. And within that 1 year, you need to get the ropes of getting like, you're doing some subjects you haven't done before. We're all new, like we didn't really know each other for that 1 year. And within that year, you're also supposed to apply to like unis and all. And I remember before I went to the school, because my sister had actually been to that school as well. One thing she told me was that it's 1 year, and that 1 year is very short, that your focus should actually be on getting the good grades so that you can get into the types of uni that you want to go, so that your focus is not to go there and to now go and make friends. So I always had that. It's just true.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's no way that you'll be in a place, unless you are extremely antisocial, you'll be in a place and you will not make friends, and you will not meet people who you maybe probably have an affinity with. And I remember coming out from WAEC as well, I hadn't done as well in math as I wanted to. And I was like, oh, I barely escaped just getting a good grade. I escaped getting a terrible grade. And I just remember during that time, before my WAEC result came out, I prayed every day for my math. Yeah, it was that I prayed every day for my math. And that's the thing, I think the idea was, I had to do was this NECO. I had to do NECO because I wasn't sure where my math was. I was like, wow, this math, after I had in that, I was like, you know what, maybe this 1 year is a chance to redeem the time. And also because I found out that this course I wanted to study, I was going to need to do math. And I was like, well, with that math I got in WAEC and this math I'm supposed to get into uni with for, I need to up. So at the back of my mind, I wasn't really thinking that quickly go there and make friendships. I mean, obviously I did make friends, and I had a friendship group, which we were quite close, and everybody just knew us, always hang out there. We had lunch together. We definitely had things in common. And I remember, it's funny, which is why I said everybody, we all came to this world separately. Everybody to find their square roots, find your square roots, and just always look what works for you. Yeah, as you want to be friends, it's your future. I remember, the whole idea was that we went to go to a particular uni. At least 3 of us were going to go to the UK, and then one of us was going to go to a different country. So she was already out of it, but she was in our friendship group. So the idea was that I will all apply to this school. And I remember I was even the one that was raving about this school at the outset, okay, this is the school, we're all going to go there, we'll all be friends together. Well, so obviously, and I remember it was in a split second, I just sort of changed my mind and I put the uni I went to as it's a different uni as my first church. No, my first choice. But to be honest, they knew that that's what I picked. I did tell them because obviously it cannot be a secret. Because I remember we would be applying and we'll always be going to the admissions office, and we all knew what each other were doing. We knew the schools we applied to, and eventually they knew the school that I picked as my first church. So I remember it was a split. It was just actually, because I remember I used to look at the league tables, and I remember at that time, my uni that I went to was higher than the other one of the league tables. And I remember I had gotten even better results because I remember, I mentioned, my sister said your focus is to get good grades, not to make friends. So I had actually done even much better than I expected. So I was like, oh, well, if I'm doing really well, why don't I go for the best option at this point in time? So I was like, oh, well, fine, I'll just go into, and obviously my friends knew, so I didn't fly anybody. They knew that that's what I was going to do. They knew. So I went and, I got into the uni, and eventually another girl as well, certain things changed for her. She actually had to pick another uni. So we all went to separate universities in different parts of the country. One was in the Midlands, I was in the southwest of India. So we're all in different places. I remember we did try to maintain the friendships, and we did try to maintain it as well, but for certain reasons I wasn't able to do. Also, my uni was very far away from everywhere. And I remember at the time that I was in uni, they hadn't brought the fast trains that were going down to the southwest. For me to get to London in train, it was at least 3.5, 4 hours. I was not going to be that person who is jumping from campus to campus. Even me getting from the bus, that's the National Express bus, into London, it was very stressful. So I couldn't be that person that was going from campus to campus. Okay, maybe I could have, now I saying I could have sacrificed and maybe just made a trip or two to visit my friends. But like you said, that you're just trying to settle down, trying to get your own footing. Like you said, you're dealing with what's it called, new friendship. You realize that maybe some people are not really as friendly as you thought they were. So you're going through all that. Meanwhile, they're also going through all their things. So thankfully, we had social media. So there's the WhatsApp, there's the Snapchat that I don't use anymore. You guys are saying the Snapchat is there, and we're all talking. And you can see each other, maybe going for events and going for classes and everything. So we think everything is fine, which is all right. We think everything is fine. But now There were four of us in that friendship. But now, out of the four of us, there's only one other person that I still talk to that, we're still like, we talk every time. In fact, when last time I went to, I still met up with her a couple of days and, we went out to hung out. But one of the things that you mentioned is that you realize that your friendship dynamics change. And also sometimes it's seasonal. And the thing is that the issue is that you don't want to get to the point where you are now dragging out some friendships longer than they need to. Then it now becomes a stress for you, for the person. And then that's when you get all these petty arguments coming up. Because to be honest, that friendship has run its course. And then also, like I said, dynamics and people change. People start to maybe do things or get interested in things that not necessarily work for you. And that's fine. Like, I understand that I'm not going to force you to do what I want to do. In fact, in your relationship with God as well, you realize that some people draw close, some people draw you. So that may also affect it as well. I think we also had like a small falling out as well in the friendship group as well. And when all that thing happens, I think it was over a guy. And I remember it was over a guy. And I remember, I wasn't involved in that. I was like, I remember looking at the person for this. I mean, like, no shade and I'm sure he's a lovely person, but like, it's a bit like, you can't be this person that is sowing discord, someone that doesn't even have a clue of what is going on between us. And it was over like, so the friendship was sort of splintered off and everything sort of went down over that. So when things like that are not managed properly and some people are getting resentful. So like I said, maybe it has just run its course. Maybe this is a good thing. And maybe this experience, I've learned that, this is how it's going to be. So that's completely fine. Like, it's all right.
Yeah.
So I give myself grace, honestly. Like, I give myself a lot of grace.
You have to.
I give myself a lot of grace.
Because we're all just learning. Okay? If you don't give yourself grace, how would you stand in front of the mirror? Do you know how many mistakes that we are constantly making just because we are learning as we go?
Yeah.
So you really,
I give myself a whole lot of grace.
And you also have to extend that grace to other people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which is why I wouldn't hold any hard feelings towards anybody. I'm like, definitely, there are some friendships that I would say in the past that I made mistakes. I could have managed it, but like I said, I'm a very independent person. Like, I could have been warmer, kinder. In fact, there was one I absolutely scattered and it was my fault. Even up to today, I cannot even give one a straight answer as to how that happened. But like, I'm learning from that experience. I've learned, okay, this is how you should treat people. Like, you learn from those things. I give myself grace. I'm like, okay, I've also learned through that experience when to step back. I don't know that I take like a million steps back. I'm like, no, this is not okay. When I get to the point where I'm like, I'm always chasing up friendships and it's almost like, you're becoming like an irritant to them. I'm like, I never want to be in that position because I believe that it's a two-way street. The Bible says that the person who wants a friend must show himself to be friendly. So if it's not reciprocal, I mean, in a different case, maybe you can clearly see that somebody is going through something. Then you make sure that you tell the person that you know what, and you don't pressure them. It's kind of like, I just send my friend like, that I know that you're just checking in. Now I do that actively. I'm like, everyone calls me, I remember them. I'm like, actually, I send a message, you know what, I'll try to call them. If I can't call them, it's fine. I'm just reaching out. Let me know if you need anything. Just checking in. I'm checking that you're alive. Just doing that, knowing that people. And I remember, I learned that from my other friends. And because that time that I was going through a whole lot of things, and my friend will always check on me, call me, how are you doing? And now I've learned to do that to other people. So like I said, you give yourself and you learn from things. You're like, okay, I didn't do this well. And one thing is that sometimes the mistakes you make, you may not always be able to fix it. Doesn't matter. You may not always be able to fix it. And don't beat yourself up about it. Like, whatever has happened. Now is now how you take things forward. And also, don't go around bad-mouthing these people. Well, if it has ended, fine. You are wrong. The person was wrong, fine. Don't go around spreading rumors. It's something that is personal between you, both of you. And I'm even learning that. So maybe I had some preconceived notion about, I've learned later that, person was going through things. Meanwhile, I was thinking that a person is just being snobbish. But like, if you don't go, you don't ask. Meanwhile, you've gone around and you want to go and tell everybody. That is a bad person. Exactly. So give yourself grace and give the same grace, maybe even more to other people. You don't know what is going to put into their minds.
The distance, it just complicates it. It just complicates it. Family events back home. How do you deal with missing out on family events back home, both good and bad? Because I know So while you were here, like shortly after you came, everything that we had been waiting for literally
Back to
happened.
back.
And there were like 2 major parties going on back home, and we were just sending you pictures. But what was that reality like?
Now that I look back, it's a bit faint in my head, but I remember at that moment, I was like, I would give anything right now to get on a plane and go back home. I honestly just wanted to be there, especially because, like you were saying, these are things that we've prayed for. It's like blessings that God had brought our way, are things that we were giving so much gratitude for. And it's like, I wish I could be there to feel the joy. Like, even in the midst of that, it was so palpable. Like, I could feel the joy across the ocean. Literally, I could feel like everybody was happy. And then at the same time as well, I think what made me not dwell in it as much or dwell in the fact that I was missing in action was because I was also going through a lot. While I was there, honestly, a lot of those events, it might be maybe I was coming from a class or I was going through something or I was going into something. It was like maybe if I was less busy and I was just there, I could sulk over it a bit more and say, oh, well, I really wish I was there. I mean, I did wish I was there, but I didn't have enough time to even sulk because it was like I'm on to the next thing right after. So I didn't have that luxury of time to settle in and say, oh, I really feel bad, I'm not here. Well, I think what really was my biggest emotion in that was the joy that we were even in our testimony, like answered prayers, much more than being there in present, missing out on things. Yeah. And same, not even with family alone, I think with friendships as well, weddings that I missed, like big news that I missed, all of that. Just the joy of seeing that things are being, they are coming to pass, things that you prayed for are coming to pass. That's what filled me. And I think also having a lot to deal with also occupies your mind that you quickly move over whatever it is that you're missing out.
Yeah.
That's from my perspective, for good things. For bad things, it's like, honestly, I struggled so much with, still probably with being there for people, especially when it's bad events where you can't be there. But a regular day, if I was back home, if somebody was going through anything, I'm the type of friend that would get on a train, I would drive down to you where you are, I'll come and meet you where you are, be there for you, because that's what I do. I'm a show up. But now I'm in a situation where I can't show up for you. So it's like, what do I do? How do I show up for this person? And honestly, it was one of the things I even struggled with in one of my friendships where it kind of got strained, where it's like the thing they are used to me doing, I'm not there to do it anymore. So dynamics kind of changed where it's like they couldn't view me in a new light or they couldn't place me in a perspective where I was delivering a different kind of support to them. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So it had to become me saying, where I am now, what can I do to help this person out? And honestly, it gives you a reality check that you're not this person's all you know. Like you can, in the snap of your fingers, you can easily be replaced. That's things you can easily be replaced. Like you would think, this person, the reason why they were able to go through this is because I was showing up for them, It's a lie. You can easily be replaced. And that brought me to that reality where people were going through certain things. Even now, like I have friends that are going through certain things, and it's like, it brings it to a perspective of also working with God to say, how more can I be doing in this relationship? And Anu was saying there are certain situations where I feel like I didn't handle it as well. And learning from that to say, what could I have done better? How could I have managed the situation better, And sometimes, honestly, we're human. We can get selfish. We can get really selfish. I remember at some point, I used to feel really selfish about, you are going through something. Why can't you come and tell me and talk to me about this? But that's probably not the way they want to handle it that season. I'm much more not with somebody that is so far away that they can't really engage in that conversation with you. So coming out of that headspace, coming out of making it all about me or how my dynamic with this person is, but actually being empathetic to what they are going through. And sometimes for your friends or even with family, what they need the most is just your prayer of peace over them. Like, honestly, I've seen the power of prayer so strongly. I'll just be saying a prayer for somebody. And I like that you said that when somebody comes to mind, you're immediately checking in. Honestly, I don't know. If you're not working with the Holy Spirit, I don't know how you're doing things. So
Funny thing is, this same sentence comes up every episode.
I honestly don't know how you're doing things. I can't count the number of times that somebody just comes to mind and I just send a text. It's not even anything too extravagant. I'm just saying, how are you doing? Hope you're doing fine. I'm just speaking God's peace over you. And they're telling you that it's in that moment, that season. So it might not even be too much. And I think we need to come out of that headspace of thinking, it must be you that delivers the most support. You must be your biggest friend supporter. You must be like the biggest value in their friendship chain. Sometimes it might just be doing what the Holy Spirit is leading you to do and taking it as it is, just being there for them in the best way you can in this season and not feeling the worst about it, trying to do the best, knowing that when you look back on it, you can say, I honestly did the best I could for this person and I don't feel any guilt about the actions I took in that moment. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Any words to add?
Any words to add?
I think she's covered most of it. I was so engrossed in what she was saying. I've gone, of course. So, yeah, I think obviously, as I have been away longer than you guys, so you can imagine how many things that I have missed. I think my parents always try to bring me back at least once every year. But obviously, I think there was one year I was doing my placement year. So obviously, I was working during that time, so I couldn't come back home. Then I went back to uni, then there was lockdown and all that. And honestly, like I was away from home for 5 years and I just went again last year for the first time in 5 years. So you can imagine everything was new. Like Wando is no longer Wando, is now NU.
Is it a Wando that changed to NU?
Yeah. You are not, Yeah, my parents were telling me I was on the expressway with them going home.
Interesting.
Yeah, apparently they've changed. Yeah, exactly. They've changed the name. Exactly. And you've not even been away as long as I have been. Even the way the buildings are, like everything is new. In fact, like some of the buildings that used to be pristine in Ikoyi, I'm like, they're starting to look a little dilapidated. Like it's starting to look a little dirty. This building is, I remember, in its glory, in its early days, like this building is looking a bit.
It could also be that you are comparing it to the buildings.
No, I wasn't comparing. No. Because at the time that I knew them, this is like they had just built them, they were pristine white, and then now you can almost see like that those black things, almost like something is dripping from it. Okay. So definitely, I missed out on a lot of things. My little sister, I think the year that I went off for uni was the year she went into secondary school, and obviously, so I basically went back home twice. And then the next time I saw her again was actually when she came here. Was it last year? No, the year before last year. She came here to actually start school. So I hadn't seen her for a very long time. So basically, she grew. I remember leaving her like, we was very, very little primary school. And then the first time I came back home, I saw her in her school uniform and she had grown taller. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. Basically growing up before you. I'm hearing like how tall some of my little cousins, and I'm just like, wow, I used to give this person a bath.
That line.
Yeah.
That line.
Person a bath, and it's amazing because I always thought that, I would never be that person. But I am that person. I am that auntie, I am that older cousin who does that. So I missed out on a lot of things like weddings, like events. There's a party, that family gathering that we go for every like the first of the year. I haven't been. That's basically at least I haven't been there. Probably maybe at least 6 years or 7 years. I haven't been there, and that's a really big thing to meet family, friends. Like a lot of things that I've missed out on. But what can I do? And it's not like because I didn't want to, but there was always one reason or the other. Which is now like I've now learned. Now I have the means to as well. Now I'm working. I have the means to obviously save towards it. And I think a trip once a year is in order. Once you are settled here, try to go, because you don't want to be, the longer you go, the more disconnected you become, even how things work as well. In fact, it's shameful, but my bank accounts, I don't remember anything about it. I mean, they still send me like statements and all. Like, I don't even know how I would access the account at this point. I don't even, did the national insurance NI number.
Identity number.
And okay, national identity. You see, I don't even know what national identity number. Apparently, like you're going to even need that to even get a SIM card and all that. Just trying to do everything. It was really, really difficult for me because I was away for that long. So you not only those events and things, you miss out on a whole, the way things work. Like the rest that things have moved from the time that you've been away. So yeah, well, it's some things are just a bit sad. I remember going and seeing my grandma for the first time basically in 5 years, because I hadn't been home, and I had to go down to where she was, and I used to see her like on video, but seeing her in person, I'm like, wow. At some point, she was here full of life, and she's still full of life, but she's gotten older. Even like just even seeing your parents have gotten older as well. Like I was thinking, people, I'm just like, wow, time has passed. in as much like I have grown, but they are growing as like people that you used to see like, wow, just seeing all that. And yeah, a lot of things, life moves fast. It moves fast. So I think all I would just say is appreciate what you can, like whatever you've missed. Especially if you knew that you really couldn't make it. Well, it's gone, it's past. Nothing you can do about that. So
Yeah. But did missing out on stuff affect feeling connected? Or maybe even just your sister, you missed out her adolescence, all of that. Did that affect your relationship? Did it make you distant, or were you able to maintain closeness?
well, definitely it's affected our relationship, but not in like the relationship deteriorated, but we just were not as close. So I and my little sister were the closest in age. To be fair, between I and my older sister, the gap between both of us and my little sister is quite a lot. She's still our baby. And we still see her as such, and she still behaves as such at our big age. She behaves as such. So definitely, because I was closer to her in age, we're much closer and all. And then obviously I went off to uni. So in fact, because she knows she can get more grace from me, like when maybe she's done something wrong in the house, she will try to call me and then she'll tell me to put in a good word for my parents, or why you being naughty, that kind of thing. I will be the older sister to do all that and obviously put in a good word for her. But then sometimes I'm just like, nah, you've messed up. That's all on you. I can't help you here. You've been very naughty. I can't help you here. So definitely we're not as close as we used to be because obviously I was away for that long. I think that, yeah, you can have that thing where you are talking to people and all, but it's not the same as actually being, like I said, when you're talking about being present. Being present, but like sometimes it's out of your hands, nothing you can do about it. This is why I said that where I keep mentioning, give yourself grace. There's some things you can do, and you learn that there's some friendships like this. You may not talk for months or whatever, but whenever you guys catch up on everything in your life, it can be like that. In fact, one of my friends, like what we do is that I may not talk to her, like have a proper phone call with her, but what we do is send each other reels.
You're in a relationship.
Yeah, I'm in a relationship with her because send each other reels on Instagram, like something funny, prayers, things that, this is how to do this, thing that I think will be relevant for her. And maybe one time we'll just call and we will talk for a long time. She will update me. And like I said, I don't feel like we are being mean to each other by not contacting. No, we are fine. We are fine. Like I went back home, visited her, saw her a couple of times. Like we are fine. You don't always have to be on constantly everybody every day. No, you don't always have to have that. But just knowing that, like I said, having both of you are on the same page and nobody is feeling resentful, like, oh, you have forgotten me or something. Just knowing that you still always have a place in that person and that person always still has a place. So if worst comes to worst, something happens to one of my friends. And I remember, which is why up to today, like if somebody calls me and I miss the call, I make sure that I call back. If someone calls me, if you call me, I call back. Because you'd never know, like something had happened. I remember I was so guilty. I heard the phone ring. I was so tired. I fell asleep and but like I now called back the next day and she now told me what happened. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad I wasn't there for you. And I said, because I didn't imagine that could have happened to her, but I was like, oh my gosh, I should have been there. But like, you realize that you're not an all in all to this person. You can't be. And I remember what I did to make up for that. Actually, I went to go and I spent I think 2 days or so with her just to, where I had the opportunity to be able to go and be present for her. Yeah, I had the opportunity to be present for her. But at that split moment when she called me and I wasn't able to, I was like, oh, I really, really wish I had picked the call. And this is even within the UK. So how much more if she was miles away? He was miles away. And I couldn't just get on the next flight and just be there to comfort her and let her know that, you are fine and all. But also you learn as well, maybe sometimes they have their own family miles away. So they may just be the only person to do that.
Wow. So insightful. I am very glad that we got to do this together and got to share. I can say that I've learned so much, and I would also be putting a number of things in place based off of this conversation. And I hope that everybody that is listening has also learned a thing or two. Please make sure to share this. If you have friends that have traveled, or if you have traveled and you have friends that are back home, or if you just know people that are in this space, Or if you are planning to, you're in that season, you're sending me your statement of purpose, you're doing all of that. Just know that this is around the corner for you. But please, share far and wide. Let's get as many people listening as possible. So till the next episode, bye. Do you guys want to say any last things? Any final? Just bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.